So I was extra passionate today because finally, first of all, we had some news release come out, like some different stuff that came out. Yeah. And one of the things that we didn't get to talk about, I'm going to save majority of this for another show, but the fact that the EK came back up into another conversation with another release just drives me nuts. And it's not because of the community's concept, it's because I don't care. I would much rather get information about stuff that matters to me and the play style that I play in. I think that they're releasing information on their it's going to be a monetization plan on top of they're releasing information on a sinkhole of resources and money. But the stuff that really matters to a majority of us are that stuff that we keep on what-ifing to death. Tell me about the tournament campaigns. Tell me about the functioning rule sets, whether they're going to swap, whether they're not going to swap. You don't have to give me the exact details, but tell me a little bit about how people are going to be selected to go into these campaigns. And you may not have all this stuff or this other information, but I don't care how I'm going to build a castle within the EK. I don't care whether I'm going to be playing Tetris with my pieces of land. Like, that's cool and all, but I mean, I personally do not care. Yep. And the more that they talk about it and the community's getting in a rile, I think people just need to realize that the EK, in my opinion, is a sink. And I think a lot of people would say that. So quit telling me about the sink, man, and tell me about the game.
Well, and, you know, we had a very brief conversation about this before the show. And, you know, the best way to explain this to, you know, someone who is not really familiar with their goal for development is to say that they're building a pyramid, and PvP is the pinnacle. It is the entire, you know, it's not a pyramid without the peak. And the problem is that for them to start talking about PvP, they have to flesh out all of this other stuff first. And it is, my opinion, founded in no information more than what anyone else has, but that they actually don't know how the tournament system is going to work in any sort of detail.
They just figured out they were going to have a tournament system like a month ago or whatever it was, right?
Right.
You know, they don't have any information about how
so
guilds are going to be
selected. That's what I'm saying. Work on it and tell me. Like, I don't.
But
right,
wait, hold on. Let me interject because I missed a couple minutes. Are we talking about update stuff?
We're talking about the thing you and I agreed with about quit telling me about the way that I can play Tetris with my castle.
I don't care.
Bro, just tell me the stuff that matters.
Michael Flatley's wrong.
The pinnacle of this game. The pinnacle of this game, you keep on talking about the pyramid tactic or whatever, is the PvP. Yep. Tell me the PvP. We've got this PvP combat strike team out there. Tell me about some of the stuff they're working on.
Give me some ideas.
Tell me about some of the problems that they're coming across, some of the issues that they're coming across, and some of the solutions they're trying to find to fix those. Those are good updates for someone like me in particular. That's the kind of stuff that I would really like to see more of. I get it. I get the whole EK system, and I actually guessed, I think a lot of us guessed what the EK was going to be about, and they're piecing it together, and the sync, and this is the way they're going to do their cash shop and make their monetization plan. Like, you keep telling us this. All right, at this point, you let out a lot of information. Let's not talk about it anymore. Go ahead and tell us about some of the stuff you're working on, or you're attempting to work on, and maybe some updates about some problems you're running into.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, I think that you're kind of hitting on some things that they can talk about in terms of their goals for the system. They can talk about, you know, the things that they're struggling with. Those are things that I think they're working on. The combat system right now, they're fleshing out, and they want to put forth something, you know, cohesive. You look at the information releases that they have, and even with the coins, which is, you know, pretty straightforward. Hey, we're introducing a currency into the game. We have how many different questions and complaints that come out of that. Imagine if they put out an unfleshed out idea that. I mean, it would get ripped apart. People would go screaming and crying to Kickstarter to try and get their money back because, oh my God, they didn't think about something yet. And I think they are being cautious about what information they release, and because they are currently working on the combat system, they can't talk about PvP because they're still working on the combat system that they said they were revamping.
Right. So tell me what you didn't like about the old concept. Tell me some of the stuff that you would like to change or attempting to change going into it.
They kind of talked about that, though, last week with the Combat Talk Show, but it wasn't a lot, though.
Yeah, I mean, in the Combat Talk Show, great feature.
It's a good format.
I'd love to see that as regularly as they could, allot time for it. Again, they're just, and I'm sorry, guys, there just wasn't a whole lot of new information in there.
And you know what? I mean, to be honest, I'm sorry for cutting you off again, but there probably isn't a lot of, like, if you're looking from their perspective, there probably isn't a lot to talk about because they're still really designing the infrastructure and the basis for all those systems. So they can't really talk about a lot of this stuff because it hasn't even been designed or fleshed out yet. The reason why they're talking about the EKs is because it's a concept that they've been had from the beginning, and it's probably fully fleshed out. So that's what they can talk about it. Unfortunately, it's to their detriment because you got all these people, oh, the EK, why don't you do this with it? Why don't you do this with it? Because the game that we're actually going to play, we don't know anything about. But we know all about the EKs. Sorry, Lex, go ahead.
We talked about that, so I have 2 points. One, we talked about earlier, before the show, we talked about the worst thing that we want to see is people giving their interpretation on what the EK should be, and then them listening to the 101 ideas and changing Crowfall. Crowfall is not designed around the EKs.
This is their first trap.
Yeah, it's the concept within the game, but the game itself is the campaigns. I, for one, think there are hundreds of ideas out there about what the EK should be, and 99 of them are fantastic ideas.
A lot of good ideas.
Tons of cool things you could do with the EK system, whether it's an end game, your siege EK versus another siege EK, where you have an Iron Throne, head honcho. Like, there's all kinds of cool concepts out there that people have brought up, and I think they're great ideas, but it's just not Crowfall. One of the in-game things that they talked about was these tournament campaigns. And some of the top crafters, if you're into the crafting and the economy side, are going to be very much directly involved in
absolutely
campaigns, because you're going to need
You can't win without the crafters.
Right. So it's going to involve an entire server or an entire group of people to win these tournament campaigns. So it's going to involve a lot of people. That's your end game. Tell me, and this goes back to the point of they're involving, or they're trying to make some of the baseline mechanical stuff, the whole background, the back end style of the combat right now. That's what they're trying to change. But in order to do that, you have to have a vision, or what your overall concept's going to be. You can very much give people information about your overall concept and what you're trying to design and the problems that you've had with your past design, and make those announcements and let people know exactly where you're coming from, because
I think we have done that, though. I think they've said campaigns are the bread and butter, the EKs are the locker room, and they had all these stupid analogies, but people are ignoring them because of the lack of information. I want to. Mythosaria brought up, and she asked if I agree that the people who don't care about the EKs will be in the minority, and we sometimes get into self-importance mode and forget EKs and cash shops will appeal to a lot of people. I completely disagree with that. I think the people putting money into this game are playing it so they can PvP, play in campaigns, and fight people. I think the people that want to sit in the EK and build their campaigns, there's crossover because there's going to be a lot of PvP players that love to kill people and get all their trophies and then build a little kingdom. I think that's going to be a little fun little game for them, and they're going to enjoy it because it's a really interesting concept. I love the idea of taking player housing and creating a kingdom out of it. It's an excellent piece of game. And none of the three of us are going to say otherwise. I mean, I think we all think it's a cool concept and a cool part of the game. But we're going to be spending most of our time talking about campaigns, playing the campaigns, and that's because that's the game.
Well, and let me go ahead and throw some. Somebody said, the past number of updates haven't just been about the EKs, and I can explain why we felt that way. And we're complaining about not necessarily what they're focusing on internally, but the lack of information about the things that we find important about this game. And when I say we, unintentionally I'm speaking for the community, because as a community, this game appeals to a particular niche of gamer. This is not going to be your raid boss type gamer going into Crowfall. this is going to be your PvPer, people who want to play competitively and want a balanced environment and being able to go in and just wreck people. And so, if we look at, the news announcements, since, April 30th, it's customizing your kingdom, and then it goes on to the combat testing. And, they say, okay, combat testing, milestone 1, this is their whole news announcement. And what's the...
I like that announcement, though.
Great announcement. What do they start off talking about? A future list includes things like EK, campaign, world building, character creation, advancement, voxelization, destruction, guild management, economy, and so forth. They don't actually start talking about the combat system. And yes, we're complaining about there not being any information about combat. They're working on it right now. And that's why there's nothing out there. It would be great to know more about their goals of how they envision tournaments working, how you get into a tournament. It would be great to hear their thoughts on it. But
well, it's subject to change.
I think that their concern is that anything they say will be taken as gospel. I mean, I'm pretty sure Pan actually said that somewhere. Is anything a dev says, regardless of whether they, preface it
Unfortunately,
with...
yeah.
Well, shit, it just happened to me today, and I'm not even a dev. I said that I gave an idea, and I said it's probably a terrible one, but they should come up with a concept that limits this. People thought that I was actually saying that there shouldn't be a way to group together and form an alliance within the game easily.
Did you buy as kind of like a little one-off type of thing? When you watched the combat show, did you see that he had a little Thomas quoted you there for a second?
I didn't even watch it.
Oh,
you wanted
he referenced
to watch
you. He
it
referenced you, dude.
Someone told me that there's nothing on it that I already didn't know.
They were talking about whatchamacallit. What are those things that are on the ground? The combat things, like in Wildstorm.
You're talking about
telegraphs.
Telegraphs. Yeah. And Thomas brought up your meteor and shadow analogy.
Yep. So that came up.
Did he?
Yes,
he did.
You're famous on the combat show that you didn't even watch. Not that you already knew everything that was on that show. But
I'll watch it now just so I can hear meteor and shadow.
Oh
Yeah,
no, I
there
think
you go.
Pan's gonna go blast something about probably crowns and crows and how we're so mean.
What?
No, I
Yeah,
think
she's pretty thin-skinned. I just don't know. I'm not sure she'll be able to be cut.
But I think she agrees with us on a lot of things. Like there's something she would love to tell us about that she's heard of and talked and like we're itching to get more. And she's sitting in the back with all of her sticky notes. Like I know Lakes is gonna sit here and cry because he don't know
Yep. We're in the after show. Feel free.
Pan, you can hop on GameVox. I mean, if you want. Let's go. Come on.
And so that's one of those things that they don't have the information, but as PvPers, I think that we're very hungry still for more information about how the PvP system is going to be set up. Yes, they're working on combat, but somebody somewhere is sitting in their little closet, because that's what they work out of there at Artcraft, and they've got to be focusing on this, and just even some top end stuff of like, hey, here's what we're looking at for tournaments, and thoughts on this, and then let people go crazy, because they're going to go crazy regardless.
And we're going to find out soon enough. I mean, I think we're going to, all three of us with our Kickstarter access are going to see the game, I think, by the end of the summer. I think it said August, September type of thing. So, I mean, right now we got to suffer with not knowing a lot of stuff for the next, 3 months or whatever?
System. But, people are getting this game not just for combat. Yes, we're hoping for a good quality combat system, and Artcraft has said they're going to focus on that.
I'm very confident we're going to have a good one.
We're getting it for the competitiveness. And can I go in there and show these guys who we've been talking shit to for the past decade that, yes, we in fact are going to kick their ass in this game, and they will say thank you because they have no other option. That's what we want to know. Hey, how is this going to work? Mm-hmm. How are the different campaign bands, how are they going to work? Give us some information. What are we working with here? And, I get that they don't have it all written down in pen, but it would be nice to know a little bit more about where they're going to take the game.
Right, it's written down in crayon.
Yeah.
And so first of all, they talked about this combat testing, and I know that they talked about a few of the devs that are involved in this combat testing, but is anyone
Strike
from
team.
is the strike team.
Yes.
Is anyone from the community directly involved in this combat testing yet that you guys know of?
No, I don't know anything.
I mean,
Valor's more down there with people, whatever. I mean, you're in Austin. Is it you?
I stay very respectful of our relationship with Artcraft. As a podcast, as a community of LOTD webcast. Sorry, don't want to get
even
castrated there. I really do my best to stay as respectful of that relationship because we are customers, and they're obviously going to treat us as such. That being said, it is something we talked about last week, and I think we'll probably bring it up every single week in the after show, at least, if not in the main show, that it is our opinion that having experienced people helping test their system from the community, I think is valuable. And I say that, and yes, we have we have a vested interest in saying that, but I have seen so many games, and Crowfall hopefully is completely different than all of these other games, but I've seen so many games go in and they use their own teams, and they bring in whatever marketing group or hire whatever testing team.
That's what ruined Rift.
And
Focus
they
groups.
do that.
Terrible.
But they
You know what the best thing about being a Kickstarter? I'm sorry. They can't afford focus groups.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
maybe that's a stretch goal. That's the next stretch goal.
Focus groups,
higher
right.
focus groups.
People start lowering their contribution levels.
No. Well, I mean, here. I just want to interject because I was always been everybody knows I keep harping on Terra Combat, and I never earlier on I never mentioned DCUO because I haven't played that in so long. But if we can get baseline DCUO combat inside this game is going to be fun. I mean, the game, DCUO had a lot of faults, the chat didn't actually work, but the combat was fun. So they got that right. And if Tommy B can replicate that and make it better, or iterate on that and learn from whatever lessons, I think we're gonna have fun.
Oh my gosh, we're getting trolled so bad right now.
Dude, they are. So first of all, I should have watched this video.
Yeah. Why did you bring up the fact that you didn't watch that?
See, you gotta lie.
Throwing Valor under the bus. It was an entertaining video. It was. I enjoyed it.
Tully's awesome. We'll drink some beer with him.
To build the features, not to actually test the features. Yeah. So they're there to build it. Check. In the box with my pen. So I've been sitting.
There you go. No. Yeah, I just to finish fleshing out my point from earlier.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yep, is making sure that you have a variety of people to provide that sort of feedback. And I'm not saying only reach out to people who've been doing the gaming stuff for decades, because they're going to have their own opinion. Don't just reach out to the streamers with 10,000 followers, because they're going to have their opinion.
Listen to people with a little bit of followers.
Yeah, but make sure that you get a good collection of those individuals, and it's up to them to figure out how they go about that. But as you said with, I believe you said Rift, they struggled with it. I've seen it time and time again, where a game goes into launch. I assume, I'm trusting what they say, I assume they go into launch believing that their systems are airtight and quality enough for a launch, and only to find them completely decimated within a day.
I think we'll find out that in testing. I think it's pretty prevalent that if a game can't handle anything right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I mean, and another point, just because they're making fun of you, Lakes, a little bit for not watching the video, I'll defend you.
I watched it.
I'll defend you. You know what? They had outtakes. It actually took them multiple tries to simply ask some questions and answer things.
And in context,
that guy Tully, I don't know. Does he speak English?
He did not have a lot of time. Lake said he did not have a lot of time. Is this something that he needed to watch that day? And I said, I mean, they really just talked about a lot of the stuff we already knew. Thanks for bringing that up.
Deep breath. Now it's out. Okay, so first of all, tell me something I don't know about the combat system. Let's start there.
Combos.
So what?
Combos.
right?
combos.
So the combos were something we actually talked about when Thomas was on, and then Thomas and I went back and forth. And
Lakes, let's talk about this.
Animation locks and all this stuff.
Let's talk about this because it's exactly like this. We just played Echoes of Soul the other night. Animation locks, but interrupts that cancel animation. Oh, you played a mage, so you didn't have that.
No, but I had it done to me. I think they have it interrupts, but when two wet noodles don't move and they stand next to each other and just wet noodle each other, that's not combat, baby. That's just wet noodling. I think Echoes of Soul PvP is very... So you don't move in between casting. It's very long cast times. I mean, you can, but there's not...
You played the mage where it doesn't have a lot of the action, so that's a little bit of your
What are you
issue.
talking about? I watched two melee people fight each other, and they were just literally wet noodling each other back and forth. No one was actually moving in between attacks to body block another person.
Well, right. It's not action combat. It's a hotbar tab target combat. I mean, yeah.
It's awful.
But the principle of animation lock, but being able to cancel your animation lock is there with a lot of the melee classes. The rogue and stuff like that there's a ton of abilities if you highlight, able to interrupt action immediately and perform right now type of thing. I mean, it's in there. So there are combat systems like that. I'd like for, as much as I hate tab target combat, that you just roll your fingers over rotation. It's actually, I think, one of the best out there for tab target.
It had interrupts, so I had an interrupt on my bar where I could, if someone was casting something, I can interrupt it, and it was cool. I like that style. Like, I like being able to cancel people's stuff.
Yep.
That concept, I think Echoes of Soul, for instance, if they could one-up their combat just a little bit, and the first thing I would do is making there be a need to actually attack and move in between different attacks, whether it's an auto attack or an actual skill attack, and body block and that kind. If they did that just right there, that would clean up a lot of the melee.
That's the problem. That's the problem with Echo. You can't weave autos in between abilities because the movement's kind of weird and stuff. It's not the best game in the world, but for a guy that's not playing any MMOs right now, it's entertaining.
Something.
The other thing that they brought up is not confirmed. They emphasize this, not confirmed, but only needing 6 or so skills, and
that's right,
on the skill bar, and with that, you're going to have more skills than just those 6. I'm kind of imagining more of a like a Guild Wars 2, I guess.
I hope not. Guild Wars 2 is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't
anything more than just one skill bar of 10 skills. You're overdoing it.
But I mean, do you remember in Guild Wars 2 how the assassins would create chains? They're effectively create combos based off of what skill they used prior to the next.
Right. And they explained it, and they were like Onslaught 1, Onslaught 2, Onslaught 3. Like I get that whole concept. I think it's interesting. I do like combo effects like that because you could also bait a lot of those skills too, and it involves, like, you use Onslaught 1, Onslaught 2, someone's going to kite away from you, and they're a little scared that you're going to use Onslaught 3 because it's that big wombo combo chain effect that someone's probably going to get 100 to 0'd with, or whatever the case might be. But it's a lot of baiting. So what if you're able to cancel someone's Onslaught 2, which cancels their entire chain, which significantly reduces their DPS? Like, that's a way of control. And I really like that style of combat. I don't know if they plan on doing stuff like that, like being able to specifically break up someone's chain on purpose. That is cool concepts and really, really in-depth PvP when it comes to maybe even a 1v1 scenario where you have to be able to outplay that person in particular.
For sure. You need. I mean, we've brought this up like every 3 shows. We talk about combat and what we want to see. So I hopefully it's there. DCUO is really a PvE game, so I don't know how that works in a PvP environment, but we'll see. I think if you have good interaction between skills and combos and interrupts and directional, stuff by recognizing animations, I think it'll go a long way to making it an entertaining game. I think we can all agree on that. Did we want to? I know we touched upon this a lot at the beginning of it. Did we want to go over any more of the EK stuff in the after show? Are there any other topics that we want to cover?
Oh, man. Here, you know what? I wanted to make sure that you saw this comic. So I dropped it in the Twitch chat. Just
Can
in case
everyone
anyone
see
else.
that? Because if everyone can't see it, I'll repost it.
I'm pretty sure everyone can see it. I'm a mod.
Oh, we've got a badass.
Oh, look at that. Now, we're all going to be reading something now on stream. Everybody be
Not
quiet.
me. I already know what it is. It's
Okay,
hilarious.
we'll talk about it then. Go
This
ahead.
is in reference to your Twitter picture.
Dude, so someone wants me to redo my GIF picture. Like, they want to make that a GIF or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever it
GIF.
is. Yeah, GIF. GIF.
I
was thinking of the peanut butter. But yeah, so I was doing this, so I'll do it next show. It was when Andres came on. I don't know if you guys seen that. I know Valer's seen it because he was laughing. But tons of people wanted to record that.
Oh man, what happened to changing your avatar to Bam Bam?
Well, I haven't logged on in a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed.
Let alone posted. I mean, I've logged on, but I've read, but I haven't posted.
Yeah.
One of the things that I actually told Dragon that I was trying to avoid, like getting sucked into a lot
so
of
easy.
these trolly threads, because I have my opinion and I have strong opinions towards a lot of things. And right now, it's just really early, and they're not really.
It's not really worth your time.
The discussions just aren't very constructive to
Well,
where someone's going to get a lot out of them. So if I put a huge amount of time and effort discussing this, I could do that on the podcast and then the devs hear it directly versus me going on there and feeding a troll bait. I don't feed trolls, man. Here's
a point that I wanted to bring up during the show, and I think I mentioned it briefly, and we'll talk about it here. Is this whole EK thing one of the first traps that Crowfall could fall into, or they listen to the people that want to live in the EK too much and take away from the actual game?
I don't think so, because 3 months ago they talked about specifically people were able to play the EK game from the very beginning of the game and never enter a campaign.
If you want to, you can. Yeah, I mean, like Todd said that again yesterday, but
that never changed, right? Like they never changed. That's the same exact concept they've been continuing to go with. I don't think that we're gonna. So in my mind, Todd's a very, very set on his ways kind of person. So in order for you to affect change through him and make him actually be like legitimately change, you have to have a real legitimate solution that's actually practical. And a lot of people within these threads aren't really practical changes within the game concept. People don't see the whole picture.
Yep.
So I don't see people changing Todd's concept or ideas on this. He's willing, in my opinion, to take some constructive criticism, but it's not going to be to the point where he's going to overall change his complete philosophy on any of it by any means.
I asked them actually at one of the conferences here in town. I asked him, I said, when you do a Kickstarter, the community then feels like they have a very large voice to change the direction of what where you want to take the game. And I asked, how much of your game is more or less set in stone and how much are you willing to change? And they said, 95% of the game is already, we know what we're going to do. There might be a little bit of 5% of wiggle room of, we can tweak this thing a little bit here and we can tweak this thing a little bit here. But, for the most part, they know where they want to go with the game. And as you said, you have to be able to bring up a quality issue with one of their directions and a quality solution of something that would be better. And then third, it has to be feasible. You have to be able to be, can you actually do that? So, in regards to all of that, yes, continue discussing the game by all means. There might be something, for instance, the coins and, my little issue with it. That would be one of those.
It's easily changeable because you're not telling them to cut the concept. You're changing. You're giving ideas of ways to not be able to use them, and that's very much an effective change. And the reason why you think it's not going to be very beneficial to use them in that way. So I really agree with you in that aspect. And I think that's one of the things the community really needs to get better about within Crowfall is. You should definitely troll within the forums. You should. I'm not going to join in. You should have a lot of fun within the forums. There should be a lot of competitive, hot-heated discussion. That's how the communities grow. But at the same time, there's got to be especially when it comes to change, has to be a very cut and dry. This is what you don't like. or this is what you like and this is why you don't like it, and these are effective changes to it. Because bitching is bitching is bitching. And unless you have a solution, no one's going to listen to your bitching, baby. Go back in the corner.
Bam, done. There it is. My whole thing that's really frustrating is the EK keeps popping up. It keeps popping up. And yes, that's going to be, like I said before, it's going to be a very interesting part of the game. And people are coming up with all these sorts of different things that you can do with the EK if you just designed it this way, whatever. And Lakes, you even said a lot of these ideas are really great ideas. But the point of the EK is not to take that idea and try to design a game around it that your own like, there's a lot of cool ideas to make games that I would play, but that's not what Crowfall is going to be. Crowfall is about, you play a campaign for 3 to 6 months or whatever it is, it gets reset and you start again. And the Eternal Kingdom is a place where you set up shop and you can have fun and you can, drink tea and, play whatever games that you want to do. And if you like just hanging out in your, really cool kingdom and do this, that, and the other, more power to you. That's good. But that's not what the game design is all about. And I kind of get frustrated. Well, I shouldn't get frustrated because it's just a stupid forum, but I get irritated when people start saying this game sucks because the EK didn't do this. I'm like, well, I think they were pretty clear what the EK was going to be from this onset. I don't know why you're getting confused about it. So
yeah, absolutely. I think the EK. There's a lot of, I think Ren back in the day, and just to throw it out there, Ren had this like huge write-up article about what the EK could be and why we thought the whole concept of EK was incomplete. And this was prior to them talking about tournament campaigns. We didn't know the end game of Crowfall. We knew that there was going to be campaigns. We knew that there was an EK, but what was there to play for? And so Ren wrote this huge article about ways and concepts and lore to be able to make the EK worth something and have like this Iron Kingdom. And he came up with 2 really good concepts. They were both like a page long. And both of them were very practical, very in-depth, had fit into what they were doing with Crowfall at the time, but it just wasn't the EK. It wasn't what it was meant to be, because overall the end game was supposed to be those tournaments. It was supposed to be playing the campaigns, that leaderboard, everyone involved in making that win possible and supporting that, and the sync is going to be the EK, where you can kind of get together and have that player housing. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of the most in-depth player housing concepts I've ever seen before.
That's great.
And it's something that people just need to realizes that's exactly what it's there for. You get to ride your unicorn into the castle, through your cornfields, have a good old time, and they even said there's resources there, which is cool, because I remember when they first talked about EKs, they said that there was only going to be just the baseline, lowest to low tier resources, but they said now there's going to be up all the way up into mid tier. Did I read that right? When they talked about mid tier resources within the EK?
They'll have different types of resources. They really haven't specified whether if there's going to be a set quality of resource only for EKs or only for campaigns. I think it's just going to be different, interesting. Sorry, I got really distracted with what Dragon's doing on the screen right now. I was like,
give some props to the Golden Glory boys.
Okay, there we go. So I think that you'll be able to get some generic resources, but as I said, the more valuable stuff's definitely going to be in the more hardcore campaigns. So I guess you could make that assumption that a certain tier of resources will be available in EKs, but not as readily accessible and or plentiful as they are in campaigns.
Right. So I think we might have hit a good part where we can actually go and join our fellow buddies on the Golden Glory podcast. Unless you have anything else to talk about. These guys are starting up, in 20 minutes?
No, they started 20 minutes ago.
20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the time for me to pour a drink and join them.
Let's go, boys. All right, again, guys, GameVox it up next time. Really, you can come on and talk about any topic whatsoever. We'll have, if we get enough callers, we'll do a open mic session. We can ask about anything, even if we brought up the subject. So don't be scared if we ever talked about it already. Call up, and we'll talk about your point and debate it, and that type of thing. The show is now 95% processed, so it should be up on YouTube shortly. The after show will be on following that. I will have the audio out to Lakes. Hopefully, he actually updates the RSS feed this time and gets it out there. Hint, hint. But
I think I messed something up, dude.
That's I don't even know.
I think I hosted them by accident.
Yeah, you
and
just hosted them.
cut you off.
Okay, well, we're not streaming anymore, so we're ending right now.
There we go.
Later, guys.